Merry meet people of the internet. My name is Rosie Moon Thursday, and today I'm kicking off my Mystical Library series. This series is going to be all about book reviews on any book based around Wicca and witchcraft. In today's episode, I'm going to be going over my top 5 book recommendations for any of you that want to get started in Wicca and want to know where to start. First things first, I have a couple disclaimers to go over. One, I am just one Wiccan among many. One of the fantastic parts of this religion is that no one Wiccan's path is the same. All the information in this video is knowledge I've acquired during my path this year. If I get something wrong, feel free to leave a comment down below. Any negative or bullying comments will be deleted. 2, I choose to practice this religion, but I also have respect for your religion, whatever that may be. I don't believe that my religion is the only path, and you will suffer if you do not convert. You do you, and you practice your own religion, and I will practice mine. 3, this video is purely for education. I am not here to recruit anyone to the Wiccan faith, but merely here to help anyone who is just getting started in Wicca or who is interested in this path. First up on my number 5 spot, I have the Wicca Handbook by Eileen Holland. This book is a very good read with a lot of information geared towards correspondences. She talks a lot about her own personal practice, and she talks a lot about her own beliefs in the practice. It is very open-ended, so you can easily turn it to your own practice. By open-ended, I mean she doesn't go into a whole lot of detail, but really just explains the basics around being a Wiccan. She does do an excellent job of explaining that magic is not a fix-all, so to speak, and gives an example from her personal life. However, I would caution to take some of her opinions with a grain of salt. Next up in number 4 spot, I have The Complete Idiot's Guide to Wicca and Witchcraft by Denise Zimmerman and Catherine A. Gleason. This was the very first book on Wicca I ever read. I know it may seem a little mainstream, but they do give a lot of good information. Like most idiot guides, they have little writing activities for the reader to complete. And the book is very well structured in regards to what you need to know first. It is also very good for jumping around to the stuff you feel you need to know, as opposed to just reading it cover to cover. The book also goes into information based around being in a coven or being solitary, which is awesome if you haven't decided which direction your path is going to take you. I found this book to be very, very informational. However, I also found it to be almost an information overload. I also found that it had so much information that it was missing going into a lot of depth on some subjects. I definitely recommend reading this book alongside another Wicca book, and this book is good if you're looking to be in a coven or looking to practice solitary. Now, before I get into the last 3 books on my list, I want to offer a few honorable mentions. And the last 3 books on my list are geared towards a solitary Wiccan path. If you're looking to be in a coven, you would have to find books based on whatever variety of Wicca your coven is, and these last 3 books may not be for you. My first honorable mention is The Witch's Bible, The Complete Witch's Handbook by Janet and Stuart Farrer. This book is completely geared towards being in a coven, and I believe it is the Alexandrian path. It has a lot of pictures of folks practicing in Skyclad, and it does go into great detail about rituals and the tools of the practice. From what I read, the authors were very knowledgeable in the practice, and it gave a lot of information about what to expect once in a coven. I only made it maybe 30 pages into the book, and quickly realized that Alexandrian Wicca was not for me. One thing, I do not practice Skyclad, though I do not have any problem with anyone who does practice Skyclad. Skyclad means to practice in the nude, by the way. I just don't have a positive view of my body, and it makes me uncomfortable to practice this way. I have done one ritual in Skyclad, and I haven't since, though. The second thing was some of the pictures in the book made me uncomfortable, and I think that my spirituality should make me comfortable. I am not by any means saying that you shouldn't practice Alexandrian, or even look into it. I am just merely stating that some of the pictures made me uncomfortable to think of myself in that position, and I have read bits and pieces of Gardner's Book of Shadows, which Alexandrian is based off of the Gardnerian path, by the way, that have also made me feel uncomfortable to think of myself in that position. I actually encourage everyone to look into different varieties of Wicca and find the right one for you. I forgot to mention in my last video that you would need to decide which variety of Wiccan you want to be before you decide which gods and goddesses you wish to worship. My next honorable mention is Wicca, A Modern Guide to Witchcraft and Magic by Harmony Nice. Now, the reason this is an honorable mention is because I have not had the chance to read this book, so I don't know exactly what is in store for you. However, I have watched all of her Enchanted Endeavors videos on her YouTube, and let me tell you, she answered a lot of questions for me when I first started. If you haven't figured it out by now, I am a huge fan, and I can't wait to read her book. If her book is anything like her videos, I feel like it would be worth the read. I have seen reviews that say she is very similar to Scott Cunningham, then again, I have seen some negative reviews as well. My final honorable mention is Wicca for Beginners by Lisa Chamberlain, or any Lisa Chamberlain book in general. Lisa's books are excellent if you're just looking for pointed information on different aspects of Wicca. Her books are more like booklets because they aren't very long and they are packed full of detail. The one that I own and use the most is Wicca, Wheel of the Year and Magic, a beginner's guide to the Sabbats. For my first year, every month I would drag this book out, sit down with a cup of tea, and read up on the Sabbat that was coming up, and the book gave details on the correspondences or relevant stones, colors, and themes for each Sabbat. Now back to our list. Third on my list of top 5 books to read on Wicca is Scott Cunningham's Wicca, The Guide for a Solitary Practitioner. I ended up reading this book from cover to cover in like 2 days. It was very, very good, and I wish so much that I had read this book first before any others. He gives detailed information about what exactly being a Wiccan is all about, along with information about how to get started and what you need to do to be a Wiccan. He puts a lot of personality into his work without putting in his bias, which is hard to do. He is very much, here is a guide. If it harms no one, do what you want with it. He also has a follow-up book to this one, as well as a few others about magic, herbs, and oils. Coming up on my number 2 spot on my list is Buckland's Complete Guide of Witchcraft by Raymond Buckland. So, just a quick side note before I talk too much about this book, I got something wrong in my first video. I said that Gardner was the pioneer to bringing Wicca to the United Kingdom and America. Well, actually it was Raymond Buckland that pioneered Wicca into American life back in the 60s and 70s. He was very much America's version of Gardner. Just wanted to take a second to clear that up. Anyway, his big blue book is supposed to be for the solitary practitioner. It is structured to be sort of a guide to guide you through your first year in a day. He offers information on different types of Wiccan paths, the history behind how the old religion was started back in caveman days, and just in general, he gives detailed information on how to be a Wiccan. He even adds in a ritual for you to follow when you are ready to take that step. The book even offers you test questions at the end of each chapter, I suppose so you can hold yourself accountable to the reading. He has diagrams on how to build an altar out of wood, and pictures to help illustrate whatever the topic is on that page. If you are like me, I got a little lost for a little while after I started my practice because I really didn't know what I was doing, and I sort of jumped in with both feet. Don't get me wrong, I have no regrets, but I was confused about a lot of information out there and I had a lot of questions. I was searching for structure and a step-by-step instruction on how to be a Wiccan. This book helped a lot with that in the way it was structured. I am still reading it in conjunction with my number 1 spot on this list. The first 2 books listed first are great books, but they are just general information and how to get started. They very much leave you open to interpret how to go about your practice. This book takes you from beginner to an advanced practitioner, and that's what I need. Then I can adapt that knowledge into my own unique practice. Finally, in my number 1 recommended book on this list is Wicca, A Year and a Day by Timothy Roderick. This book I am slowly, yet surely working my way through. He gives a day-by-day way for you to work Wicca into your life. It is perfection, with detailed information on each day's lessons. It is like having a guide with you every single day, giving you the steps you need to work your way through your first year in a day. He gives you items to pick up from your local metaphysical shop, or go out and find to use during your practice, with instructions on how to use them. For instance, an item that I needed to get was a tapered white candle. On one day, I had to write down my thoughts and feelings and comfort level on certain words commonly used in the Wiccan community. The next day, the lesson had me rereading those thoughts and feelings and finding the theme of those words. He then lays out a small ritual for you to perform to banish that negative theme from your life. He also gives you detailed information on meditation and becoming in tune with nature. It has challenged me a lot and had me look really deep within myself to the reason I want to be a Wiccan. I really recommend it if you're looking for instruction and a teacher. That is all for today's episode. Do you have any books you would recommend for me to read? I would love to know, so please put your comments down below. I would love to read any and all books on Wicca, and I would love to review them on this channel. With that all said, I hope you all enjoyed this video. If you did like this video, join the path and subscribe. Also, please drop a like so I know how I am doing. I hope you all have a beautiful day, and I will see you in my next video.